Hey, what's up, builders? My name's Brett, and this is Half Baked Builds. Today, we're going to be working on an AI agent using the Claude Agent SDK. So, a little bit of backstory first. I run a laser engraving business on the side, and previously I was making probably about $500 a month, and I was doing okay. I bought a big laser, took on a payment, and now that has slowed down to well under $100 a month, and I've just kind of let it be stagnant like that. I'm obsessed with all things AI, and so naturally I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, my laser's sitting out in the garage collecting dust. How do I turn this into more money, right? So we'll walk through a little bit of my conversation here with ChatGPT. So one of the first things it says is, I can look at my Etsy, SEO, photography, etc. Okay, let's assume I've done most of that. One of the things that caught my attention here was local niches, right? So local breweries and wineries, sports and schools, corporate maybe. Sports and schools is interesting, but a lot of times they're tight on budget. I happen to live in an area, I live in Northern Virginia, and we have a ton of breweries and wineries in the area. And so this one right here caught my eye. I thought, you know what, there's a lot of local business here that I haven't reached out to. And I think a lot of times we just sort of assume, oh, they probably have somebody that does that for them. But maybe they don't, or maybe they're looking to find a new supplier. So maybe that could be me. So this one caught my attention. And I thought, okay, yeah, I should start targeting some local businesses. So we'll scroll down here a little bit. So I said, I want some advice on whether or not I can leverage my knowledge of AI and automation to help me scale any of these options faster or easier. AI product mockups is something I've been looking into a lot lately with the release of Nano Banana. And the ability to create realistic looking product mockups is pretty amazing right now. So I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then I also like this one here, local outreach automation. So find local breweries and wineries, generate pitch emails, and attach a mockup of their logo on your products. So I thought, well, these two go pretty well together, right? So I can make AI product mockups and then automatically generate the outreach emails to contact these businesses. So I said, I want to use the Claude Agent SDK, and I basically go through a conversation. I have a conversation with ChatGPT, and we go back and forth and discuss, what should this be? What should it do? I'm going to actually have Claude write the code. But obviously, because I love making projects, I want to know, hey, once I'm done with this, is this something I can also productize? Can I make this into something I can sell, make a little bit of side income? It recommended an API that's deprecated, so we move on. And we're just glossing over this. I just kind of want you to see that this is a pretty, in-depth conversation. It takes me a little bit to get to the final thing that I'm going to actually build off of. So I tell it what I'm going to use. I say, let's write up a plan. We don't need any code. We're just trying to come up with a plan. So here's a high-level overview. And again, we're just glossing through this. Don't worry about it. It's more just for context of how we got here. So I always ask ChatGPT, write me up a PRD. And then I realized at some point, this is a pretty in-depth thing. So I say, how can I start to do this as a YouTube video, right? So how can I break this down? And obviously phases. So phases is the approach we decided to take. So I said, let's build a PRD just for this phase. And that's how we got to where we're at. So we are going to have an agent that takes in a comma separated value, a CSV list of local breweries and their URLs. And it basically goes out, finds their logo, comes back, adds their logo in a realistic laser engraved product mockup to pre-existing templates that I've given it. So that's phase one, right? It's a pretty major step towards what I'd like to ultimately build. So what we're going to build as we go, so this is the comma separated value. And I'll just give you a quick preview of what we built here. So, and then we'll go through sort of the how we built it. So I can come in here right now and I'm going to say, let me show you my mockups folder first. So I've got a template folder that just has a slate coaster and a tap handle. And we have a command where I can run to either do tap handle or slate coaster. So let's start with tap handle. So what this is doing right now is I've already run this, so it's using cached versions of the logos. But if I hadn't run this before, it's going out to these URLs. It's using an API called Logo.dev. It's grabbing their logo, sending that to Nano Banana, and that's getting pre-processed to turn it into just a black and white image. When you're laser engraving, it needs to be solid black and white. And then depending on the product it's going on, the laser engraving is going to look different, right? So if I'm engraving on wood, then the part that gets engraved is going to get darker. If I'm engraving on slate, the part that's being engraved is actually going to get lighter. It's going to turn to like a white, kind of off-white grayish color. And so I needed to build prompts for different materials. And we'll get into that. We'll get into some of the details behind that and how this is going to work as I add new materials, as I add new products. But I wanted to start simple. And I find that that's helpful, especially since this is my first ever AI agent. Let's not overcomplicate everything and shoot for the moon and try and build the Uber agent that's going to do everything. Let's start with pretty simple, comma separated value, fetch a logo, create a mockup. That alone, I think, would add value to a service business like mine, where I can much more quickly put together comps or mockups for local companies. So that process is done running. Let's take a look at what we got. And I'll warn you, they're not always great. So, we're still dealing with large language model outputs here. It's not always perfect. Let's see what we got. So this one actually looks really good. This is from a local brewery called Aslan. Pretty simple logo, but it centered it nicely. The engraving looks realistic. You can still see the wood grain through it. I would give that one a high mark. That one looks great. It's also creating thumbnail versions of them. This is another one. This one's a little bit off center. Not terrible, but yeah, if I'm sending this to a client or a potential client, I want the attention to detail to be there. So I want them to know if I make them something that it's going to be centered. So that's something I would want to tweak to make sure that the output is clean. Overall, though, it did a great job of keeping the logo true to form, right? We've got the faded out lines. That's how their logo actually looks. The lettering still looks really good. Didn't lose any detail there. So overall, I think it did a great job. I would just want that to be slightly to the right, just a hair. Oh, this one looks great. Another local brewery called Ocelot. Now, this one's interesting because their logo has a solid background. So it did a great job of dropping the background, but then keeping that outside stroke to keep the logo contained. So I'm actually really happy with that one. That looks great. The last one, again, kind of off center. Great job with the logo. But yeah, we've got a little bit of a centering issue. But overall, not terrible. So let's run this with coasters and see what we get for that. And again, coasters are interesting because it's almost an inverse, right? So everything that's black in your image, when it gets engraved, is going to come out as light because the slate is already black. So we're going to go ahead and run this on coaster. Again, cache versions of the logos. So that's part of the agent's time savings, cost savings, is if it has retrieved a logo in the last 30 days, it's not going to retrieve it again. We can assume it's probably still the same. It will check after 30 days and recache a logo. But that's going through right now. This will take just a second. So there we go. So I didn't time that, but let's assume that took a minute, right? So I haven't seen the output yet, but assuming the output looks decent, that's a fair amount of work to have done in a minute. So I've actually just now, for 4 different companies, gotten their logos, converted them to a laser engraver friendly format, and then again we'll check out the output, but hopefully realistically superimpose them onto product photos that I would be happy to send to a potential client. So let's make this just a little bigger so I can see what we're looking at here. Mockups. There we go. So let's take a look at these coasters. I mean, that one's great. That's perfect. You can even see the stone texture showing through the engraving there. No complaints there. Let's see. Lost Rhino. Oh, what an awesome mock-up that is. I mean, this is perfect. This is exactly what I would hope. I'd send that to them. They see that. They're like, oh yeah, that's great quality. Love that. Let's check out Ocelot. Again, the way it's keeping the stone texture showing through the engraving is super realistic. I'm really happy with that. So far we're 3 for 4. What are we going to get with Solace? Boom. This one I would have be a little bit bigger to fill more of the space. It seems sort of unnecessarily small. But overall, the quality on these is spectacular. So I'm really pleased with that. So right there, in just a few minutes, we've generated 2 different products for 4 different companies, and I can send these out to them and say, hey, would you be interested in this? I'll put together a price sheet and say, these coasters are $5 a piece, or I can do sets for them to be a little cheaper if they want a price. I don't know if they're going to resell them to their customers, use them in their businesses, whatever. But that's hours worth of work that we've just done now in just a few minutes. So I'm really, really happy with that output. That's great. So what did we build? The main challenge here was getting the prompts to give me that output. The thing I want to encourage people to do, if you're not familiar with this, keep asking, keep pushing it. You don't have to know what the prompt should be going in. Ask it. Say, hey, what's a great prompt for this? To get to this prompt, I went to Google AI Studio. I don't see my history for this. There we go, history. So I actually came here and I said, hey, I need a prompt that's going to help me convert logos and make them laser engraver friendly. Should be solid black and white and smart about what to do with background areas. Usually if there's a background, I want it cut out and add a stroke, which we saw in the ocelot example. These I didn't give it, it generated those, but I gave it this ocelot brewing example. You can see it's got a black background. I can't have that in my engraving. That's going to be the slate. But I don't necessarily want to lose the shape of their logo, so I want that to be a stroke. Everything in here that's yellow needs to be black. Everything in here that's white, oddly enough, needs to be black because it's going to engrave as white. So this is a pretty complex one, and you can see this is what they gave me. So that's awesome. That's great. But this is still a manual process where I have to come in here and ask it. So I took the prompt that it gave me, which was this, and I gave that to Claude. And I said, hey, when you're processing the logo, this is the prompt I want you to use. And so we've got that. Yeah, and then it's material specific, right? So I can say, like, let me use Whisper Flow. What instructions are we giving to Nano Banana for the wood engravings? And let's take a look and see what that prompt is. Whoop. Seems Claude Code had an error. Okay. What prompt are we giving to Nano Banana to the Gemini API for the wood engraving product mockups? So right now it's scanning the code base, it's finding the prompt. It could be decently long, so it's passing it 2 images and saying, use the black and white one. Here we go. The engraved area should appear darker than the surrounding wood, like a burn mark. Add subtle shadows to add depth, because when you're engraving into wood, it's actually going to sink in a little bit, which is different than slate. Originally, when I ran this, it was adding that for slate as well, and I had to have it tweak that. Make the edges clean. Wood grain should remain slightly visible, which we saw in the output. A matte finish, don't make the engravings glossy. That makes sense. This is funny. It should look professionally done. Yep, hopefully. Yeah, that's basically it. So we're just giving this, this is step 1. This is phase 1, right? So what's the ultimate goal for this agent? Ultimately, I want it to go out and find local businesses for me. So right now I'm targeting breweries. So I would say, hey, breweries is the category. Here's the zip code. Go find everything within a 50-mile range. Pull all those down. Confirm that they're active, right? Are they open? Are these dead links? So have a part of the agent that's also validating that these are businesses that are still open. Go find that. Pull all that down. Go through, get all their logos, right? Now I'm going to say, I'm going to come over here and in my templates folder, I'll build out a library of templates. And let's say this graduates beyond just breweries, right? Let's say I start doing bakeries or coffee shops or apparel, whatever it would be. I'm going to come in here and put in all of the various product photos. And the reason this requires an agent to be smart is it's going to look at the business type, choose the appropriate products, put the logo on those products, and then it's going to put together a pricing sheet for that client and say, hey, these are the products we think you would use. These are the mock-ups with your company's logo already on them. And here you go. Let me know if you're interested. We can even automate this to monitor follow-up and say, hey, did they reply? Were they interested? If they didn't reply, can we follow up? Like, let's track all of that, right? Ultimately, this will be an agent that handles this entire process of finding local businesses, vetting them, producing mockups, reaching out to them, handling any follow-ups, and then if they're interested, passing them on to me to maybe book a call and see what they're interested in buying. So right now, I think what's here is pretty neat. It's pretty cool. It's a big time saver. I think that there would be a market, honestly, just for this. What we do on Half-Baked Builds is just find a thread and pull it. See where it takes us, see what we can make. So this is our first pass at that, and hopefully, you can kind of see where this is headed. I think it's pretty interesting. And, let's add one more product while we're here and just see, so you can see a little bit of the process and see what the output looks like. We're going to figure this out together. I don't know what it's going to look like. So let's say I want to do bottle openers. Let's see. Bottle opener. Let's do bottle opener for laser engraving. Okay. Come over here to images. These are already engraved, which is probably just because of my prompt. But honestly, I think Nano Banana can handle that. So this is interesting because there's 3. I don't want to have too many SKUs though. Let's look at something. I kind of like this one. Yeah, I like this one. So I'm going to copy this, or actually I'm just going to save it. And we're going to put it in our project folder here. Outreach agent templates. Just call it bottle opener. Oh, that's a WebP. That's a problem. I've had issues with that being the format, so I may cut this out. But let's see. I'm going to actually take that WebP image and we're going to turn it into a JPEG just real fast in Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, I'm sure there are 10,000 free online tools that you can do this in. I just happen to be a longtime Photoshop user, which honestly is one of the reasons I like building tools like this, is because as a longtime Photoshop user, I understand the amount of time and effort it takes to make product mockups like this. So let's see, we're going to bring in from desktop. So we're just going to open that up. Well, that is not the highest resolution. That's all right. Export as a JPEG. Sorry, it's on my other monitor. So JPEG, yep, that's fine. Bottle opener.jpg. I'm now just going to come in here and get rid of the WebP version. So now I've got a new mockup here for bottle opener. So we're going to come over here to Claude Code, and I'm just going to give it some new instructions. So we're going to use Whisper Flow, so you guys are going to always hear me speaking my commands. It's just a faster way to do it, and I like it. I added a bottle opener to the templates folder. It is also wood, so we can use the similar instructions for the wood engraving. It's a different shape than the tap handle, so I don't know if we need to give it specific centering instructions or not, or if we can just reuse what's there, but we need to replicate the product mockup process that we have currently for tap handles and coasters, and we need to replicate that for bottle openers. Let's take a look at that and see how the first pass goes. So I'm going to send that off to Claude, and we'll see what we get back. And we're using Sonnet 4.5 as the model here. Okay, so it actually took a look at the image itself. That's interesting. So it said I can see the bottle opener. It's horizontal, elongated wood with metal hardware on both ends. So that's really interesting that Claude took a look and actually analyzed the image. And so now when it creates the prompt for Nano Banana, it actually has some context in terms of what it's putting that logo on. So I would say at this point, this isn't an agent yet. It's an automation, right? So the difference between an agent and an automation is an automation is going to have an expected input, defined steps along the way, and an expected output. We are using AI to generate that output, but there's no intelligence, there's no decision making, there's no thinking yet. So what's going to make this an agent is when we start to put together these predefined workflows that we've built, but we're going to use those as tools and give that to the agent and say, hey, you've got a logo fetching tool. If you need a logo, make a decision. Do we have that? Do we not have it? Go get it. Do we have a converted version of it? If not, you need to go get a converted version of it. What type of business are we targeting? What types of products would they want to see? And so you start to get agentic when you add in the decision-making intelligence, right? So that's the difference between, okay, I can put in a comma separated value file, that's great. That's a great workflow to have, but it's not an agent yet. So this agent is going to do the research for me. It's going to do the product mockup for me. And then it's going to draft the output emails and come up with the pricing for them. So there's going to be a lot more that it's going to do as sort of the whole comprehensive workflow. So right now, this is just phase one, building out, almost a proof of concept. Can we generate the images that we hope to generate? And what do they look like? I would say with those coasters and tap handles, I was really, really pleased with that output. So we'll see if we'll see what we get with the bottle openers and if it's as good. I'm going to go ahead and delete the mockups we've created. So when we create the bottle openers, we won't have to scroll through all those files. See if we can tell what Claude's doing here. Also, if you're ever working with agents like this, like Claude Code or Codex or whatever, sometimes it's nice to just follow along if you have familiarity with code and just sort of sanity check what it's doing. If you don't have familiarity, just trust the output. If the output isn't what you want, you keep tweaking the prompt and you keep asking for more. So it says bottle opener mockup generation is working perfectly. Now, take that with a grain of salt. The large language models are super optimistic and they'll tell you, oh, this is great. It's production ready. It's perfect. Always test. Always verify. Okay, great. So I'm going to assume that I can run the same command with bottle opener, but I'm going to ask, what is the command I need to run the bottle opener? npm run with our npm start, I think it was. And we'll probably just have to change that last part to be bottle opener. npm start docs brewery lists. Okay. So we're just going to change this last part here to be bottle opener. And again, we're doing this together. So if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, then we'll enjoy it together. Let's see what we get. Also, let's just preemptively talk about what if the output's bad. That's okay. This is an iterative process. I think a lot of people have it in mind that you're using AI, everything is one shot, right? You give it a prompt, you get perfect output. You get in, or you get back out what you put in, right? So if you're not getting what you want, just tell it, go back to Claude, tell it why it isn't what you want. You can give it screenshots, you can drag in the images. I did that a lot with the coaster images to get those out, to get the output to be correct. I kept putting back in the output that it gave me. I would drop it in the chat and say, hey, this has a black background. That's not realistic for laser engraving. We have to fix that. And it would fix that, but then add the yellow color for the Ocelot logo back in. We made an improvement in one area, but then we took a step back in another area. And it's an iterative process. Look at the AI agents that you're working with as collaborators, right? They're not omniscient beings that can just read your mind and output perfect work every time, but they are coachable and they will learn as you go and they will take your feedback and make the output better. So let's assume like if the bottle openers here are good, it's because of the work that went into the process leading up to this point. So we're done. Let's go see what we got. I mean, that's awesome. I would send that to them. I think you can tell that this is a mock-up, right? Like if you were to actually engrave this, there's not going to be a little drop shadow around the edge. It definitely looks mocked up, but I would say for an initial outreach to a potential client, absolutely. The fact that the wood grain carries through and has that continuity, it looks great. The logo stayed true to form. That looks awesome. Thumbnail version of it. Lost Rhino, same thing. This looks perfect. No complaints. Let's see. Ocelot looking awesome. And last one will be Solace. All right, so Solace went just a little bit to the bottom edge there. I don't love that, but 3 out of 4 being really good, and the last one needing a small tweak. So, I might go back to Claude and say, hey, make sure there's always enough padding above and below the logo. But honestly, I think if I ran this again, I've got just as good a chance of getting a slightly different output. This is probably just an anomaly, but regardless, I'd say I would send this to them. If I were reaching out to them as a potential client of mine, they can envision, hey, put these on your bar top, sell them to your customers, let's talk about a price, etc. So right there, we literally added a new product, ran it again, and our 4 businesses that we hope to work with have custom mockups for them. So phase one, I would say, is a success. So if you guys want to see phase two, follow along, subscribe. The next phase, I'm not sure yet. We've got to do automated gathering of the leads and the email generation. I'm probably going to go ahead and do the email generation next because I've already got sample leads. So I'd say the next phase will be taking this and putting it into an outreach email that's personalized for each of these clients. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was interesting. And leave a comment down below if there's anything you'd like to see me automate, or if you've got some suggestions on how I can improve this process. Thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.